The battle for Willow Lake. The morning mist hung low over Willow Lake, its surface so still it mirrored the sky like polished glass. I stood at my favorite fishing spot, the same one I'd carved out 15 years ago, my coffee mug steaming in the cool air. Then came the voice, sharp and commanding, slicing through the quiet. "Get out of this lake right now, Mr. Thompson. You have no right to fish here." Eleanor Grayson, the Homeowners Association president, stood with her arms crossed, flanked by 4 others, their faces smug with the certainty of victory. I said nothing, letting her words ripple across the water. Slowly, I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folded document. As I opened it, Eleanor's face drained of color. How do you have that?" she stammered. In that moment, the air seemed to freeze, and the power she thought she held began to crack. The scent of damp earth lingered from last night's rain, mixing with the faint sweetness of blooming jasmine near the lake's edge. My 5 prized koi, sunfire, opal, scarlet, sapphire, and emerald, swam lazily beneath the crystal water. Sunfire, a 25-year-old beauty with scales that gleamed like burnished gold, led the group. These weren't just fish. They were a $50,000 trust from my old friend, Governor Daniel Hayes, symbols of a bond forged in military service. I'd sworn to protect them, and no self-important suburban dictator was going to stand in my way. Eleanor Grayson, 45, had ruled the Crestwood Estates HOA for 3 years, wielding her authority like a general over trivial matters like lawn heights and mailbox colors. Her posse, Jack Miller, a sycophantic realtor, Margaret Klein, a retired principal with a penchant for moralizing, Henry Liu, an accountant who treated every dispute like a balance sheet, and newcomer Sarah Bennett, still naive enough to think HOA politics mattered, nodded in unison, basking in their leader's confidence. They believed the lake was community property, citing a 1998 development plan. They were wrong. I set my coffee mug on the wooden table I'd built by hand, next to my tackle box, organized with the precision of my 12 years in the Army. "Mrs. Grayson," I said, my voice steady, the same tone I'd used to calm green recruits under fire. "You seem awfully sure about property rights this morning." Eleanor puffed up, mistaking my calm for weakness. It was her first mistake in a chain of catastrophic missteps. The document I held was no mere fishing permit. Dated September 15, 1943, it bore the seal of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, granting the Thompson family exclusive fishing and lake management rights in perpetuity for my grandfather's work during the national food production emergency of World War II. Protected by the Resource Conservation Act of 1945, these rights trumped local bylaws, HOA rules, or even state laws. Eleanor's face went from red to ghostly white as I read aloud, each word landing like a hammer. Complete authority over fishing, aquaculture, water quality, and prohibition of unauthorized access. "That's impossible," she sputtered, her voice betraying doubt. Henry Liu stepped forward, his accountant's mind grasping for logic. "Even if it's real, it can't still be valid after all these years." I fixed him with a patient stare. "Mr. Liu, does the Constitution expire because it's old? Federal law doesn't vanish because it's inconvenient." The group shifted uneasily, their confidence crumbling. I'd seen this coming for months. Neighbors had been eyeing my property, taking sneaky photos, asking probing questions about lake access. A black sedan with corporate plates had parked on Elm Street twice a week for 6 weeks, its driver too polished for a county worker. Someone with deep pockets was circling, and Eleanor was their pawn. Eleanor didn't back down easily. 3 days later, she launched a propaganda campaign. Glossy flyers appeared in every mailbox, decrying my monopolization of Crestwood's Lake. A Facebook group, Reclaim Willow Lake, popped up with professional graphics and emotionally charged posts about community fairness. Within 48 hours, it had 200 members, many from outside Crestwood. The coordinated posts and polished rhetoric screamed hired PR, not grassroots outrage. Local reporter Laura Evans, once known for solid journalism, published a slanted article, "Lake Dispute Divides Crestwood," framing the issue as a community squabble rather than a legal battle. My federal rights were buried in a single paragraph, drowned out by anonymous quotes about selfish exclusion. I met Laura at a Main Street coffee shop, hoping for fairness, But her questions skirted the law, focusing on neighborhood harmony. Someone had fed her a narrative, likely backed by ad dollars from a shadowy player. That player was Richard Caldwell, CEO of Pinnacle Development Group, a company with a history of strong-arming property owners into selling cheap. My military intelligence training helped me connect the dots. Caldwell's firm had filed for a mixed-use project in Crestwood, eyeing my lake for high-density housing. He'd been surveilling me for months, using private investigators and local proxies like Eleanor to apply pressure. My attorney, William Foster, confirmed my rights were ironclad, but warned that Caldwell's tactic was legal harassment, multiple lawsuits to drain my resources. Neighbors like Ellen Carter, a friend for 12 years, were coerced into pressuring me for compromise, their own properties threatened by zoning maneuvers. The campaign was sophisticated, ruthless, and backed by serious money. The escalation came at 2 a.m. On a Tuesday, two men, hired by Caldwell's shell company, dumped 20 gallons of industrial herbicide and fish toxin into Willow Lake. Eleanor had provided my routine, ensuring a 4-hour window. Their goal: kill my koi and render the lake unusable, blaming my negligent management. They didn't know Willow Lake wasn't just a pond. My grandfather, a hydraulic engineer, had designed it during the war as part of a regional water system, feeding underground springs that supplied 3,000 residents. The koi were living sensors, their health signaling water quality. By 6:30 a.m., the chemical stench hit me. Sunfire, opal, scarlet, sapphire, and emerald floated dead, their $50,000 value reduced to hazardous waste. I lifted Sunfire's lifeless body, the weight of betrayal heavier than the fish itself. I'd failed Governor Hayes, failed my grandfather's legacy. The poison spread through the filtration system, sickening 67 people. Crestwood Elementary reported 17 children with seizures. The hospital was overrun. Dr. Catherine Grayson, Eleanor's sister, nearly died after consuming contaminated water during her night shift. Her toxicology expertise identified organophosphate poisoning. No accident, but a deliberate attack. HOA security guard Tom Reynolds, present at Eleanor's initial confrontation, had grown suspicious. He photographed the men dumping chemicals and recorded Eleanor's calls with Caldwell, including her chilling directive: "I don't care if the fish live or die. Just make that lake unusable." The EPA and FBI swooped in, treating it as environmental terrorism. Governor Hayes, furious about his koi and the broader threat, pledged full state support. The civil trial against the HOA was a spectacle. William Foster presented my 1943 certificate, verified by National Archives experts. Catherine Grayson testified, her voice steady despite her frail recovery, detailing the deliberate poisoning and her sister's confession in her hospital room. "You poisoned children, pregnant women, all to steal a lake from a man with every legal right." Tom's recordings sealed the case, exposing Eleanor's role in Caldwell's scheme. Judge Elizabeth Warren awarded me $2.3 million, including compensation for the koi, cleanup costs, and punitive damages. She issued a permanent injunction against interfering with my rights, backed by criminal contempt penalties. Eleanor's facade shattered as she faced federal charges. The FBI's Operation Waterfall unraveled Caldwell's empire. His company had earned $45 million illegally across 7 states, bribing officials and manipulating HOAs. His Crestwood chain plan aimed to seize the entire neighborhood for a $100 million deal with a foreign investor. He and Eleanor were arrested fleeing to Brazil, Caldwell with $2.3 million in cash, Eleanor with her life savings. Caldwell received 25 years for racketeering, environmental terrorism, and attempted murder. Eleanor got 15 years, with $3.2 million in restitution. Catherine's testimony, detailing the human toll, permanent organ damage for some victims, underscored the stakes. Governor Hayes presented me with 5 new koi: unity, valor, truth, honor, and loyalty, naming them at a ceremony declaring Willow Lake a state preservation site. EPA specialists, funded by federal grants, revived its ecosystem. Native fish returned, and the filtration system hummed perfectly. The Thompson Environmental Education Center, built with community donations, now hosts 200 students monthly, teaching water conservation and property rights. Ellen Carter led an apology delegation, ashamed of her coerced role. Local businesses, like Mike Larson's tackle shop, raised $150,000 for restoration. Laura Evans redeemed herself with a Pulitzer-winning series exposing Caldwell's corruption. New laws, like the Veterans Property Protection Act, strengthened wartime grants. Katherine Grayson became a community advocate, her weekly talks healing old wounds. The Rodriguez family, whose kids survived the poisoning, held an annual barbecue at my lake, a tradition of gratitude and resilience. Yet, some residents clung to Eleanor's lies, spreading conspiracy theories about federal overreach. Minor vandalism persisted, but federal protection ensured my safety. As I cast my line into the restored lake, watching Unity lead her companions, I knew this fight was about more than fishing. It was about standing firm against greed, defending what's right, and proving that justice, backed by law and community, could prevail. What would you do if someone tried to take what's rightfully yours? Have you faced injustice or fought for your principles? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss how we confront greed and protect our communities.